I'm expecting at that point to see a slide open, right? The whole like, hey, you open the door, the slide is gonna open, and there's no slide.
Whoa, okay. Help each other!
After being delayed for more than an hour, Spanair Flight 5022 is finally getting back underway. There are 166 passengers on board, many of them looking to escape the stifling heat of Madrid in August.
Everyone was full of anticipation. Everyone wanted to be on their way.
Anna Stefanides has come to Spain from Sweden. She is on her way to the Canary Islands to meet some friends.
Most of Europe has holidays, different summer holidays in August. I was going to Gran Canaria to meet my girlfriends. We were going to have 1 week's holiday, 4 ladies.
Spanair 5022, Geonex 9 on runway 36 left.
Okay, here we go.
At 2:23, the MD-82 aircraft starts speeding down the runway. The captain watches their speed. They can't lift off until they reach 157 knots, takeoff speed.
V1, rotate.
An alarm warns the pilots something is going wrong.
Engine failure?
The first officer increases power, but he's losing control of the plane.
How the hell do you turn off that warning?
The plane is less than 40 feet from the ground.
I managed to think, this is my last trip. I've had a good life. I thought, now I die.
Fly the plane. Fly it.
Oh, God.
Just seconds after takeoff, Flight 5022 slams into a riverbank beside the runway. The plane, with 172 people on board, is now shattered wreckage spread over half a mile.
There's a line here.
For the crew, it's been a long day.
Another one here about 25 miles wide.
Well, if we get out of here pretty quick, we won't have a delay.
They've already flown from Minneapolis, Minnesota, to Saginaw, Michigan, and then Detroit. Phoenix is their next stop on the way to Santa Ana, California. The plane's 149 passengers are also eager to leave. Asiana and her family have been visiting relatives. They're heading home to Arizona. Her daughter Cecilia is only 4 years old. Flight 255 begins moving from the gate to the runway.
Northwest 255.
But because of the weather,
Northwest 255, now exit at Charlie runway 3 center.
the ground controller gives them a last-minute runway change, with disastrous results.
I prayed that everybody made it, but I thought it was just a small plane because it happened so quickly. I didn't know it was a bigger plane, and it was just awful.
Just minutes after impact, paramedic Tim Schroeder is on the scene looking for survivors.
I have never been to an accident of that scale. We were struck by the magnitude of what we were seeing, the large scale of it. It was almost overwhelming.
From the little that's left of Flight 255, it is unlikely they'll find anyone alive.
It was probably a minute went by and Dan actually heard a noise. He asked me a couple times, you know, do I hear anything? And I said no. And then finally I heard it. And it was more like a faint cry. When I turned my head to the right, I saw an arm underneath the seat.
1, 2, 3, lift!
Somehow, 4-year-old Cecilia Xian has survived the crash. Tim Schroeder races her to the hospital.
We have a 4-year-old girl found alive in the wreckage. She has a very weak pulse.
If Cecilia survived, perhaps others have as well. The plane is descending to the runway at 1,600 feet per minute, faster than the space shuttle comes in to land.
That's fine.
I got the runway. It's off to the right, over there.
Over there.
But the pilots can't slow their plane. In fact, Fitch must increase engine speed to keep the nose up.
Bring it on down.
Oh, baby. Ease her on down.
Tell them we're 2 minutes away from landing.
2 minutes away from landing, 2 minutes.
I know we're close enough now, coming in fast enough now, that we're going to make the airport. That was the main thing. Whether we actually made the runway or not, I don't know.
The aircraft is still traveling much faster than normal, but the crew cannot delay any longer. This is their only shot at a landing.
Get on the brakes with me.
Yeah.
They will have only minimal braking power and reverse thrust to stop the plane on the ground. They won't be able to steer. No pilot at the controls of a commercial jetliner has ever landed a DC-10 safely at this speed, with or without flight controls.
Pull the power back. That's right, pull the left one back.
You could hear people crying, and every once in a while you could hear people kind of scream a little bit. And I remember at the end thinking, all right, there's nothing else I can do to get ready here. Now I just got to see what happens, see what unfolds.
The plane is 30 seconds from landing.
Brace, brace, brace.
Had no idea what was going to happen when we touched down. We were going way too fast. We had no flaps. We had no brakes. And we had no way to steer the airplane once we did arrive at the runway.
At the very bottom, I was hoping to do the pitch up by putting more power in, pulling the nose up, causing the whole belly to become drag into the wind and slow us down so that we would touch down on the landing gear and then roll down the runway.
Only 100 feet from the ground, the nose dips again, increasing its already dangerous speed.
The nose lowered, the airspeed would get built up again, and the right wing started to go down again. And we couldn't have that. We had to try and get it level.
Close the throttles.
Close them off. Pull them off.
I can't pull them off or we'll lose it. That's what's turning you.
And we both said, okay, he's in charge of the throttles, do whatever you have to do. There had to be complete trust.
Okay, okay.
Left, bro, left, 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 left.
We're turning, we're turning, we're turning.
Didn't get it quite right. And we hit very hard. My head smashed down into the radio rack in front of me. It's just like somebody had a giant hand on the back of my head and just was forcing me face down into this rack.
We have hit just incredibly hard. I don't think for all the thoughts about what it might be like that I was ready for that impact. I could feel the plane go upside down, and then we slid upside down and backwards for what seemed like forever.
I remember looking out the window and saw it got blue for a split second, darkened again to brown and green, and then more violence than I can put in words.
Air China Flight 129 has been in the air for a little less than 2 hours. Among the 155 passengers is a group of Korean tourists flying home from vacation. Their tour guide is 28-year-old Sol Ik-soo.
I had just started a new job, and my wife was 4 months pregnant.
손님들이 저하고 이제 같이 간 이제 저희 회사 여행사로 오신 분들이 한 20명 정도?
There were about 20 people traveling with our agency. I had many things to take care of.
예, 뭐 챙길 게 조금 많았던 것 같아요.
I just can't believe that happened.
열심히 회사도 다니고 그다음에 열심히 일을 해서
I was working very hard because I had ambitions to be promoted.
내가 내 나름대로 또 사업을 갖고 싶은 욕심이 있었고 그래서 남들이 쉬거나
I didn't take breaks and work late. I was trying my best.
더 열심히 했던 것 같습니다.
But for Sol-Ek Soo, who's trying to make a good impression in his new job, today is feeling like a disaster.
I mean, what kind of person does that?
It all started to go wrong this morning when he made a mistake that he worries could get him fired.
I had arranged for the group to sit in first class. But right before we got to the airport, I realized that I'd left my passport and bag in the hotel lobby. The bus driver had to turn around and go back to the hotel.
그때 당시에 이제 버스를 타고 공항으로 가다가
The good seats were first come, first served.
여권하고 가방을 분실한 사실을 알고
Because we had to return to the hotel, my group was pushed to seats at the very back of the plane.
Sol-Ek Soo has no way of knowing the far more important impact of this minor mistake.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to begin our approach to Kimhae Airport. Local weather is foggy with some rain. We'll be landing in approximately 20 minutes.
Changing weather conditions are posing a challenge for the crew.
Clear to land runway 18.
Reduce speed. Okay.
Sol-Ek Soo worries that the bad weather will delay their arrival in Busan.
Let's go around! Pull up, pull up!
그런 개성이 앞에서부터
I heard people screaming.
미끄러진다는 느낌은 받았습니다.
I was sliding. I couldn't keep my body straight because the speed was too fast.
다 움직이더라고요. 한 명, 두 명, 세 명. 어둠이.
Then,
실질적으로 나중에 이제 생각해서.
Air China Flight 129 has crashed into the side of Mount Dat-dae, miles from the intended runway. Of the 166 people on board, 37 survive. Almost all those who made it out alive were seated near tour guide Sol-Ek Soo. Asiana Flight 214 is nearing the end of an overnight flight from Seoul, Korea to San Francisco. Ben Levy is a frequent flyer returning home.
And I fly pretty often for business or visiting my family. I'm originally from France, and so, I fly long distance a lot. I fly in and out of SF a lot. So I know the airport very well.
Many of the other 291 passengers are Chinese, including a group of teenagers on their way to summer camp in the United States.
Asiana 214 Heavy, runway 28 left, cleared to land.
Landing checklist complete. Clear to land. On glide path.
The pilots check a set of lights beside the runway that can help guide them to a safe landing.
Check.
The plane is less than a minute from the runway when Ben Levy realizes something is wrong.
I remember noticing that there's a small pier that extends out of the runway, and I'm like, wow, we're very low. And I dismissed the thought thinking, well, what can go wrong? There's all the technology on board to make sure that those guys don't mess up.
In the cockpit,
speed!
A crisis hits.
I've got control. Oh, God, go around!
The captain pulls up the nose and tries to climb. brutal impact has torn the tail off the body of the plane. An engine is burning. If fire spreads to the fuel tanks, the plane could explode.
Let's see if we can open this door.
But getting down to the ground will not be easy.
I'm expecting at that point to see a slide open, right? The whole like, hey, you open the door, the slide is gonna open, and there's no slide.
Whoa. Okay. Help each other. Come on.
Luckily, some crumpled pieces of the fuselage have formed a makeshift set of stairs. Ben Levy stays by the door to help the other passengers climb down.
Come on.
At San Francisco International Airport, runway 28L is a disaster zone. Fire crews battle to keep flames from consuming the fuselage of Asiana Flight 214. With rescuers now on board to help the injured, Ben Levy finally heads to safety.